Are you dreaming about getting paid to do what you love? Cook. But you can't decide what to do because there are so many options. All you know is you want to do something you're passionate about. You want to be your own boss. You want to have that freedom. You want to get paid to cook on your own terms, all the things. Today, I am going to go through the top 3 home cooking businesses that you should consider starting and the pros and cons of each one so you can make the best decision for you. Hey there, Chef Shelley here. I've had a successful personal chef business for over 15 years. And I've done all these things we're going to talk about. And when I'm not cooking for my own clients, which I still do, I help passionate cooks just like you start your own personal chef business so that you can get paid to do what you love on your own terms. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe, like this video, and hit the little bell so that way you'll never miss one of my weekly videos. Let's talk about the new one on the scene thanks to changes to health department laws. And that would be a home, usually baking business under the new cottage laws, right? All 50 states now have legalized some form of cottage law. And basically what that means is you can prepare some foods from your home up to a certain amount. Now, there are a lot of details in there, and it does vary from place to place. Generally, what this is talking about is non-hazardous foods like baked goods. Some places let you do a few other things. Some places make you sell out of your house. Some people say you can take stuff to farmers market. You need to check your local health department for your specifics. But let's talk about that type of home cooking business, right? How about some pros? You get to work from home and cook from home. You have flexibility of schedule. If you need to bust out a batch of cupcakes at midnight, you can do it, right? It's a simple business as far as bookkeeping. There's no commercial kitchen lease. There's no employees. There's no vehicles, equipment, all that kind of stuff that you have to consider when you have a restaurant or big catering type business. Super low overhead. Again, there's no lease. There's no employees or anything, so that's great. Let's talk some of the cons. Low margins, low profit margins. What does that mean? Let me do some math. Okay, if you're selling cupcakes for $25 a dozen, and listen, I'm not saying you can't sell them for this price, this is too high, this is too low. What I'm showing you is for whatever you're considering doing, pick a price and work out the profit margin so you can see if you want to hit a certain amount of profit. You know what you're looking at when you're considering this type of business, right? So let's say you're going to make a dozen cupcakes for $25, right? And ingredients are $6, let's say. Again, realistic, not realistic, totally depends on what you're doing, where you are, and all that other stuff. This is an example so you know how to do the math. And it takes you 2 hours to bake them, cool them, decorate them, package them, or whatever, right? So if you're spending 2 hours making the cupcakes and you're making $25 minus the ingredients, that's about $9.50 an hour. That doesn't include if you're paying for a website, what you're using for packaging, time you spend marketing and talking to clients and all that stuff. But you don't even have to consider your hourly. Just consider what you can charge. Everything else you have to take out of that, how much time it's going to take you to give you an idea. Now, in addition to considering this, something else from the money standpoint, most states have an income cap. That means this is the most amount of money they will let you make selling your stuff from home under the cottage laws. Most states, this number is $50,000. And again, this is not your take home. This is your revenue, your sales, what you're charging, right? So if we go back to this $25 a dozen example, you would have to sell to hit that 50,000 cap. Because let's say you want to make as much money as you can, right? To hit that $50,000 cap, you would have to sell 2,000 dozen cupcakes. Now, again, you're probably selling other things and stuff. This is just the example so you know how to work it out, right? So to do this, looking at this, you would have to work 80 hours a week. doing this math. Now, again, when you're doing multiple dozens, it probably wouldn't work out to be exactly that, but these are the things you want to consider. And after your hard costs, like that'd be $38,000 a year, and that would be before taxes. So if you're 25%, 30% taxes or whatever, you can do that math and realize that you're coming home with high 20s, maybe 28,000 for working this much. It's not even realistic that you work 80 hours a week. I'm just going over this again to give you an example of, as you're thinking about what you want to do with your cooking passion, what that's going to look like. Another con you'll want to consider is, because this is super easy, work from home, anyone who loves to bake can do it, low barrier to entry to start a business doing this, there is a lot of competition. That doesn't mean it's good competition, and if you're really good, that obviously will make a huge difference. But you're also going to have to do a lot of marketing to build a steady business. All things to consider. Let's talk about the second most popular home cooking business, and that would be catering. This is another one that, for people who baking isn't necessarily their passion, but cooking is totally passion, that they consider doing. And number one is that they just love the party vibe, right? You want to be in the environment where you're working with your client on creating a fantastic event, because you know how important food is part of any event, the most important part. Not that we're biased, right? You love planning the party, coming up with the menus, and doing all the things. So you can make great money doing it too. There is a huge con that you need to consider if you want to do a home-based catering business, and that is and this is a statistic I actually worked out, 99% of places in the United States require you to work out of a commercial kitchen or to work in the client's kitchen, right? So that could be a huge con for you if you are wanting to do a business that you can 100% do out of your home. You are either going to be in one of the very few areas, I want to say it's maybe 5 counties, 4 in California and either 1 or 2 in Washington, or they're working on that. You can go to cookalliance.org to check the nitty-gritty details on exactly where has started permitting home kitchens. That's a huge deal. All us passionate cooks should be very involved in that movement. So go to cookalliance.org and sign up for their newsletter so you can hear all about where that is and where you can cook from your home kitchen once you get it permitted. Also, when you're doing catering, if you want to make a lot of money, it can be hard, because if you do events of a big enough size to make a big enough profit, you're going to need to have people helping you. And it can be hard to hire staff, train them, and keep them available when you're not a big enough catering company where you're actually employing people full time. That can be difficult. And high startup costs. Again, if you're going to be wanting to do large size catering, whether you're somewhere you can do it out of your home or you're going to be doing it in the client's home or venue, then you're going to need some large scale equipment. This could be renting, it could be buying. When you're churning out that bulk kind of food for large crowds, you're just going to need bigger equipment. Then there's not even just the making of the food, there's the serving, right? You're going to need to either rent or buy flatware, glassware, plateware, servingware, all those kind of things. Then catering has less flexibility for you as far as your work schedule, right? When do people want catering? Nights? Weekends? Holidays. That's when people are celebrating, and if you want to focus on catering, that's pretty much going to be your life. Now, that being said, this has medium margins. You have to be really good at your food costing and your menu pricing to make sure that you're making a good profit. If you are somewhere that's permitting home kitchens, again, you're going to have an income cap, but for this type, it probably will be higher than that $50,000. If you're working out of a commercial kitchen, of course, there's no income cap. You can work it as much as you want and make as much as you want. But again, that's not a home-based cooking business, which is what we're talking about. So when we're talking about it, we're talking about probably, again, either you're doing it out of your home in a place that can permit home kitchens and you have an income cap, or you're doing it like they do in a personal chef business where you're doing it in the client's home, and then there's no income cap because you're considered, even though you have multiple clients, a more of a private chef where it's in the client's home, so it's not regulated like that. Now, again, liability. Now, you're not going to kill someone with a cupcake, right? That's one of the reasons all 50 states have finally passed cottage laws, doing things like baked goods and other non-hazardous foods that the FDA considers non-hazardous can be done from an home kitchen because the risk is low. But if you are doing anything anywhere with regular, real cooking food, you can make someone very sick. So you do need to carry liability insurance that will protect you and have a business entity set up to protect your personal assets if someone sues you. Now, if you think too serious, too big a deal, you're just going to do some small stuff, this isn't anything you need to worry about. How often do people get food poisoning? It's not that big a deal or whatever. Just to throw some more numbers at you. Did you know that 3,000 people in this country die every year from food poisoning? 128,007 people are hospitalized from food poisoning, and 48 million people get food poisoning every single year. That's something to consider if you're thinking you're just wanting to do this as a passion project or as a hobby or whatever, especially if you think you can get away with doing it out of your home somewhere where it's not really on the up and up. Even if you do get a business entity and business insurance, it will not cover you if what you're doing is not approved by the health department. Another con about catering is that, again, people don't get it all the time. So you need to be really good at marketing, and you're going to need to market all the time to keep those catering jobs coming in. The third most popular type of home cooking business is a personal chef business. The pros about this are the number one service is personal chef services, also known as meal prep services. They take place during the day, during weekdays, if that's important to you in your schedule. Catering is also the second most popular service that people do in a personal chef service, but we talked about catering, so to talk about the services side, meal prep services, the pros about that are you have regular clients you're cooking for week after week or every other week or whatever. So you spend more time cooking than you do having to get clients once you get regular clients. Again, just like if you're starting up a home baking business, there is low to no overhead. There's no commercial kitchen lease. There's no huge equipment you need. If you're cooking for yourself passionately, you probably already have or most of the cooking stuff you need. There's not anything that you need that has huge startup costs unless you are starting with the LLC, depending on where you are, is a few $100s. Liability insurance is a cost every year. That's a few $100s. Those are things to look into. The beauty of doing the personal chef services, it's very high margins. When you price as your service plus a grocery reimbursement for whatever they want for their food that week, everything you take home for your service fee is yours, minus those little things we said, like your one-time LLC, your annual liability insurance if you're paying for a website or stuff like that. Very small cost expenses, so very high profit. And of course, again, just like if you were doing catering services in a personal chef business sense, there's no income cap. You can make as much as you want to when you're cooking out of the client's home. All three of these businesses, really, here's another pro, are pretty simple as far as bookkeeping. Again, since you don't have employees or payroll, that you don't have to deal with. Because you don't have property or a commercial kitchen lease, that part you don't have to deal with. So it's pretty simple as far as keeping track of your expenses and your income. Now, when you're looking at wanting to do meal prep services to be fully booked, that's about 8 to 12 clients. That's all that you need to be fully booked doing meal prep services every day of the week. About 8 to 12 clients. So you're cooking for them over and over. That's a lot more time spending doing cooking than it is doing marketing. Of course, there will be marketing in the upfront to get those clients locked in, and then you'll always want to be taking inquiries for your wait list. But if you live in a city of 500,000 people, not even that much probably, but just as an example, and there are 100 personal chefs, do you think that there are enough potential clients out there for you to get 8 to 12 people? There are, especially if you are professional, as we talked about, liability insurance, a business entity, doing proper marketing, getting your menu set up, knowing what you're doing. Because believe it or not, no matter what industry it is, people are still flaky. Don't return phone calls, don't have a functioning website, show up once, never talk to them again, whatever. It really doesn't take a lot to rise to the top because most people are sinking to the bottom, even in the personal chef business industry. So way less competition than, say, cottage baking. And again, much, much higher margins. Now, cons. For some people, it is going to be a big con that they have to cook out of the client's kitchen instead of their own. But again, for 99.8% of us, that's the legal way to do it. Now, if you're not good at talking to people or willing to learn how to get clients, it can be hard to get started. And you might be hearing that a lot if you're like in Facebook groups with personal chefs of people complaining all the time that they have a hard time getting clients. When you're not good at what you do, it can be difficult to get clients and keep clients. So it's very important that if that is something you want to do, you spend time to learn and get the skill that you're going to need to do in the upfront on marketing that then afterwards you'll be cooking, right? What do you think? From all these three and all these pros and cons, what business is the most appealing to you? Did I miss any that you're already looking into in the home cooking kind of arena? Did you think of any pros and cons that I missed? Let me know in the comments and let's talk about it.